In this video, we're going to talk about SubD in RHINO. This is a new way to model, and it's the evolution of the mesh tools and also of the T-splines, which were available in previous versions. So you can see here some of the objects that I have created using SubD, but I will start from the beginning as usual. So we're going to start with really simple things and then proceed further. Now let's get started with the first tool that we found here in the SubD tools, and the first one, it's called the single SubD face. Now this can be helpful to understand what are we talking about. So if we create something here, it's gonna create a polygon. Now a polygon, it's a triangle, could be a triangle or could be also four-sided, or you can actually add many different sides to this. And now you can also, let's press enter. So you can see here, this is the way the SubD are gonna appear. They usually will appear really soft and curvy. Now I can also extrude this just as I extruded curves and surfaces. You can do the same with the SubD. And again, it's not gonna look like anything that we have seen before. It's gonna look like a really rounded shape, but not really a NURBS. It's something a little bit different. Now I want to create another one here just to show you what's the difference between this and the mesh. Now I only want to do four-sided here and press enter, and then I want to do a mesh, okay, and use the single mesh face, which is a similar command in the mesh tools, and press enter. Now you see here that these two are really different. This one, it's pretty rigid, and this one here, it's really soft, talking about edges. Now if I go here in the SubD tools and use this button here to toggle SubD display, there you go, it's gonna show me the real effect of those subdivisions surfaces. So if these are gonna be smooth unless I click here, and this is gonna reveal me the real structure. Now you can see here that it's really rounded. This part is really rounded. This is because it doesn't have subdivisions. So subdivisions are really important in the SubD. And also if I go here at the bottom, I can see that this is empty. Well, it's we have a hole here, so this is not a closed solid, it's an open SubD. Now to close this is really easy. We have similar command that we also seen before. So we can do with fill, SubD hole, and select the borders there and press enter. And you can also change here some of these settings. Okay, now you can see this is a closed subdivision, and it's gonna appear different now. There you go. So now it's even softer than before. So when you have a hole, it's gonna limit the roundness of the edges. And also when you have subdivisions, it's gonna limit the roundness of the edge. Let me do another example. So let's use one of these primitives. I'm not gonna show you all the primitives because these are similar to the mesh primitives and also to the NURBS primitives, and also the sweep and the loft. These are all similar, and the tubular shape here. This is similar to what we have seen before, so I'm not gonna go again over those. You can just see the previous videos. So I just want to create a simple box. Now when you create an object in subdivisions, just like in mesh, you can define a number of subdivisions. So now it's 3 times 3 times 3. And let's create this one here. Okay, and now I want to create another one, but I'm going to decrease this. Let's say 1, 1, and 1. Okay, and look how it's gonna be different. Now this is way much rounded than this one here. Why? Because it has less subdivisions. Now let's make a third one, and this time I'm gonna do 9, 9, and 9. And look what's gonna happen. There you go. Now, same exact tool, which is the box, but 3 different results, all about the subdivisions. So basically, when subdivisions are really near to the edge, that's gonna be more and more straight, and if they are far from the edge, this is gonna be more and more rounded, just like this. Now there is another way to limit the roundness. So in addition to these subdivisions, so I'm gonna copy this, pressing Alt and moving the object forward, and let's make this a less rounded. So to do that, I can use this tool here. Well, these two here, one is to add a crease and the other one is to remove a crease. So let's first add a crease, and I will select, for example, these edges and press enter, and there you go. Now that's the only part which is going to be more rigid than the rest. Again, let's add another 2, for example, and press enter. There you go. Now these are stronger than the other edges. And let's repeat. Let's use also this one here and this one here and press enter. There you go, another result. So you can see here where I'm going. Let's do the last. So let's create 1, 2. Well, you can also go into the other views to select quickly. And you can see here I'm selecting edges and points. And there you go. Now this is a standard box without any roundness. And if I want to remove creases, I will use this other one here, remove. So let's remove, for example, 1. And there you go. And let's remove another right there. And there you go. So this is a totally different shape again. So it's like I'm creating chocolates, for example, of different shapes. It's like really working with clay. It's like sculpting. It's like manipulating the object using the faces and the points and the edges. But we're gonna make more examples. So we saw how we can limit the roundness, increasing the subdivisions, changing the creases. Now another option is to work with the edges, and we can do edge loops or edge rings. Now, for example, let's add here an edge loop. So I will select, for example, this segment here and press enter, and you can see here I'm inserting another line there. There you go, and let's repeat the operation, same exact operation right here. So you can see how this part is becoming more rigid. And if we want to switch here to see what's happened, I've just added some subdivisions right there near the edge, near the corner. And you can do that also with the ring. So we have edge loop and edge ring. In this case, we are gonna select a ring like this, press enter, and I can place a line just right there near the corner, and that's gonna limit the roundness of that corner as well. And let's switch back to see the effect. Now let's say that I want to create, for example, a mouse, something really rounded. Well, I can definitely start from scratch, toggling the SubD display off and starting to define the overall shape of my mouse, which could be maybe something like this. Okay, so this could be the starting point, and then I can start to extract, well, sorry, to extrude. Now you can use the gumball also for that. So if you move the face with the move tool, it's gonna move upward, but if you move and then click Control and hold Control, it's gonna do an extrusion. That's really important. This is the basics of polygonal modeling. It's all about extruding, extruding, extruding. It's, let's say, 90% extrusion. Now once you do that, you can start to define how this can look like. So for example, I can select that point, Ctrl Shift click, and move it maybe here, and then I will select also that other point there, Well, let's zoom a little bit. Okay, of course, you can isolate if you want to work a little bit better. And maybe I want to add here a part where it's gonna be a little bit higher. So in that case, that's where you're gonna use the loop or ring selection. Okay, and also with those two, and press enter. And this is gonna create here an extra edge. Not really how I imagined that, but I can also insert more subdivisions with this other tool here. So I'm gonna insert subdivision right there, press enter, and then I can, well, let's Control and Shift, and you can select more than 2 points like this. Okay, Control Shift click, and we can select also only edges. So you can see what I'm doing here. I'm trying to figure out what the overall shape of my mouse will be, and then working with this in this type of visualization. Okay, and I can also here control and extrude these edges. So move and hold control. It's gonna extrude. You can also use the scale and rotate. Okay, and then you continue to study the way that your model is gonna behave. Control here also. Let's, for example, scale in this direction. Okay, I'm just improvising here, but you can take your time and do whatever you want. Now, when you're finished, you switch this to the smooth, and you can see if it's going in the right direction or not. Now, you can also start to model using this type of visualization. So if I Control Shift click there, I can start to manipulate edges and also the points and the faces. Okay, and maybe you have some reference image that can help you, or you can just create without caring about anything, just with your fantasy. Now, maybe also I need to select this tree here and make it a little bit smaller, or maybe only the central part can be a little bit higher. Well, you know, it's a long process here that can take really long time, but you get the idea of what we are trying to do here. And let's try something else. So I'm going to also copy this, and I'm gonna show you another really interesting command, which is this one. It's called Inset. This is gonna extrude internally. So for example, if I select this part of my model and I say Inset, I can choose group or single. Now, if you do single, you will create an inset for each of these faces. So this is set to 0.1. Okay, let's say okay. And there you go. So I have these 9 faces inside the previous faces. So it's kind of creating a face inside the face. And I can also, well, push this up or push them down. And again, holding control, I'm going to create more subdivisions, which means that I'm going to get more rigid parts on that. So once you understand the logic that's behind, you can really try to model anything here. You're gonna have fun with this. And again, you can see there, I created many divisions with it, which I can place down there, so it can look a little less rounded. Okay, the other option is to group the objects. So these are going to be treated not like single faces, and click again if you want to deselect, but as a single entity, as a single group. So let's do again, and let's make this a group. And let's say, okay, I want to extrude inside of one, and check that here so that you can see a little bit better. Well, let's make it smaller so you can see it. There you go. So this is a one inside the other, and then if I place it inside, it's gonna have this look if you see it without the smoothing. If you see it with the smoothing, it's gonna look like that, like a basket or something like that. Let's go and see the next one. So now I want to create a cylinder. Okay, maybe here. And well, this is too big, so I'm going to scale it real quick. And everything is so easy here with the gumball and everything. Okay, so I'm going to extrude this inside. So do an inset of this real quick. And again, as a group. Okay, it doesn't matter actually, because you can always scale it. And if you hold shift, you can scale this with the proportions. Okay, now I want to mirror this. So using the transform and mirror, simple as that. There you go. And now I can use another really interesting one, which is the bridge or connect. So we can select the first group here and press enter, and then the second one and press enter again. And this is what we're gonna get. And here you can change if you want there the crease or not, and how many segments you want inside. So it will change also the look and the straightness. So more straight, less straight. Okay, I'm gonna do another copy now of this, and well, also of this. And you can also increase here the subdivisions. And increase it more. Well, also another one that I wanted to show you, which we already seen actually, is this one here, to bevel the mesh or the SubD. So you can use this with the mesh. We already use this with the mesh, and also with the SubD if you want to create bevels. And again, you are always constrained to the subdivisions around. You cannot go further than that. Now this looks better when you have less edges around, like this. Okay, so it's another way to smooth again the corners. Okay, we saw fill sub. The extrude subdivision is the exact same that we have been seeing so far. So you can select here, press enter, and then extrude. But we can do that with the gumball. And you can see also here you can create chairs really easy, really fast. So for example, if I move this a little bit up like that, and then take all those and again move them up again, and to create the legs you can just, well, this is a little bit strange, but that's okay, just to show you how it's gonna work. So sorry, so 1 2 3 4, and we can extrude this internally. And now it doesn't matter if it's a group or not, because these are separated. So just define here the distance, say 4. Okay, and then bring this down and hold Control to make extrusions. So this is like extruding. And there you go. And again, if I want to add creases right there, I'm gonna select everything and make it like that. You can see how many different effects we can test here. Okay, and offset, this is also interesting. So we need to have, of course, some empty spot, for example. Well, let's take this one here, for example, and just select and delete the face. And this is just gonna work as a standard offset, as we already know. So it's gonna create a thickness, and this is gonna be, well, actually I've created many, so I will delete some of these. Well, of course it's gonna be more interesting if you start to deactivate some of these creases here. So let's change this object a little bit and insert some creases and thickness. So let's make 10. All right, so we have, like, I don't know, something to some kitchenware. Okay, let's see something else here. This is quad remesh. This is again to increase the subdivisions, and you have many options here. And you can always convert objects to NURBS. So if I select here, I can convert this to NURBS. So this is going to be NURBS, and now I can work with NURBS. And convert to SubD. I can create any shape in the NURBS modeling, or also the mesh tools here, and then convert it to NURBS. They are practically the same thing. Okay, so this is the object. By the way, you can also extrude using the mesh tools. And again, let's convert this into a SubD. Press enter, move this one aside, and that's the result. Again, because we have so few subdivisions, gonna look really rounded, and then we can work on that as we saw before. Now let's finish with these selection modes here. Now here we can select everything. We can select only the edges. We can do edge loops when we select, for example, edges here. We can do edge loops if there are there, and we can also do phase loops. So let's use the, well, let's go into something more complex like this. So if I select here, you can see it's gonna select a loop. And you can also select the faces, only the points, only the edges. You have these selection filters. You can disable them or enable them. This works also with meshes, lights, and other stuff. So if I say, okay, I only want to select surfaces, yeah, you can see here I'm only selecting surfaces, not points, not edges. Now, when you want to save a selection, you can also go here and save and say, okay, this is the selection. When I'm going to need that back, I can go here, select that, and it's gonna select and go to that saved selection. And again, we can apply and remove filters. And well, the last thing I want to show you is right here in this other toolbar, which is soft transform. Now, when you have few points, maybe like this, it's really simple to select them and work with them. For example, if I want only that, I can move that outside or inside. I can select a bunch of points, a bunch of lines, really easy like that, and I can work with them. But when I have complex situations, for example, like this, now this is going to be more difficult to select all the points that I need or all the edges. So what I can do is use the soft selection basically. So let me see the difference. If I push this one up, this is going to be well, really concentrated. But if I select that point again and use the soft transform or soft selection, you can see I have a radius of selection. So I can even go bigger than the object, and look what's gonna happen. This is gonna be modified really smoothly, and you can use that also with edges. So if you want, select a edge loop here like that and use that. So press enter and use that with the soft selection. You can do that as well. And there you go. So I think we have played a lot so far. So now it's just your turn. Just think about an object that you want to create, a character or a puppet or whatever. You can do really anything with polygonal modeling and SubD. Just go on into the web, type polygonal modeling. You will see many different examples on many different objects that you can create. And so this will be all for this video. Thanks for watching and see you in the next.